Ben McKee and Patrick Brown of GoVols 24/7 here following day number 11 of Tennessee Fall Camp, the last day that we will see practice all 7 minutes of it until the spring. But in the midst of today's practice, we get to see quite a bunch. Very telling. We got to see some
nice
one-on-ones here in this very end zone.
Yeah, it looked like the wide receivers had the upper hand. There were some good defensive back reps. I thought Jordan Matthews had a couple good ones. Jalen McMurray had a good one. Gerard McCoy had a couple good ones. But the receivers,
Will Brooks
would have had an interception, but in these one-on-one drills, they give them like these blue oven mitt-looking things. They're somewhere between an actual oven mitt and like the things that baseball players put on their hands when they're on the base paths. And so if he had regular hands, he probably would have picked the pass off, but he didn't. So, but yeah, no, I thought Squirrel White was really quick in the slot. Ethan Davis had some grown man catches. He did one of those catches in the back corner of the end zone on a back shoulder throw.
He just continues to look phenomenal.
He caught it and then did like the one hand, look how awesome I am, and then got a toe inbounds. The official on the far side said it was a touchdown. And then he had another one where he made a contested catch. I think it was against Jacoby Thomas. So he looked good. Mike Matthews, he went against a couple of walk-ons. That was a mismatch. Ches Nimrod had a good one in the slot against Christian Charles. So there's a more in-depth recap on those on the site on our practice observations. So that was just a quick rundown. But yeah, it was good. We got to see some competitiveness there at the end and see some of those guys go at it and then talk to a couple of receivers afterwards.
Yeah, and the other big thing that stood out to me today from practice was some offensive line positions and rotations. William Satterwhite, the true freshman, as the backup center to Cooper Mays, rolling with the second string. And then John Campbell nursing a nagging injury, and Dane Davis working over there at right tackle.
Yeah, Davis is going to be the third tackle, and he might be the backup center.
He's the backup left tackle, the backup left guard.
We'll see where they've got a guard. Jackson Lampley was also with the first group at left guard.
Yes.
And Andre Carrick was with the second group, so maybe that is where that is going into tomorrow's scrimmage. We'll see. But certainly, I still think Dane Davis would be the backup center, but it's maybe a good sign that Satterwhite is already, I guess, working with the twos in some capacity, and as they try to expedite his development. Maybe not for this year, but maybe for next season. Maybe he's the guy in 2025. We'll see.
2 of the 5 people we spoke to after practice were receivers, Chris Brazzell and Caleb Webb. 2 things that stood out to me is that Chris Brazzell, when you asked him if this room has NFL guys, he says, shoo, just about everybody. So a lot of belief in their abilities within the room as there should be. And then Caleb Webb also speaking to the competition in the room and how he enjoys that and how that just simply makes everybody in the room better.
Yeah, Webb said that the word he used was sabotage. Like, no one's out to get anybody. There's no Nancy Kerrigan, Tanya Harding. Nobody's taking any crowbars to the knees.
Telling somebody the wrong start to practice time.
Right. Yeah, there's none of that going on. And I think that's backed up because none of those guys left after the spring. I mean, we wondered if there would be some attrition, some guys hop in the portal, maybe go somewhere else where they have a better chance to play. Didn't see any of that. That was interesting. And Webb's a good example of that because he's a guy that maybe it might be tough for him to get in the mix, but he's here, he's battling, he's trying to get better as a player. And then Brazzell, people are really excited about him. He actually gave a good answer about the defensive backs that he goes against and what you need to do differently about going against Ricky Gibson, Jalen McMurray, Shermod McCoy, how as a receiver he has to have different approaches depending on who's lined up across him. And he's going to see obviously different cornerbacks throughout the season in his first season in the SEC, so that's going to help him. Those defensive backs are obviously going to get better from going against those guys. So just a lot of competition, and we saw some of it out here with the one-on-ones.
Yeah, we also talked to several running backs. We talked to running backs coach Darrell Sims, also talked to Deshaun Bishop and Khalifa Keith. And I know that Deshaun Bishop's not going to be the starter or have the bulk of the carries, but to me, because they're treating Dylan Sampson like an NFL vet and being very cautious of him, to me, Deshaun Bishop is like the talk of the running back room right now.
He might be the second guy right now with Cam Selden out.
I think he is.
And yeah, I mean, that's if I was projection depth chart tomorrow, that would be.
And the other thing, speaking of rotations and whatnot, Peyton Lewis in a red jersey today that we should note as well. So that room, I'm sure they're being cautious, but that room is in bubble wrap, and Deshaun Bishop is the one that appears not to be in bubble wrap.
Yeah, it's interesting. He played at Carnes down the road and had he might have said it, 800-something carries, 600-something. I don't know.
A billion.
He had 400-something carries one season, and he was like, I never even thought about getting an injury. His first camp here last season, he gets rolled up on, misses the entire season with an ankle injury. He's past that now, and he seems like he's really made the most of this offseason of his opportunity. And the big thing that Sim said about Bishop is that, like, you go out there and we trust him. We trust him to operate at a really good level, which is, again, this guy's never taken a caught snap in a game before. So for him to show that in practice, I think is a good sign for him. And I think he's got a chance to really help this backfield out and at least be a stopgap until A, Cam Seldon comes back, B, Peyton Lewis sort of catches on, because he looks like a big-time player physically, still learning things mentally. Obviously, they got Dylan Sampson, but Bishop at least could be a pretty good stopgap, and that's if he doesn't carve out a role for the entire season, which is not, I think that's on the table.
Yep, I do as well. Tennessee will be back in action tomorrow for day number 12 of fall camp. It'll also be scrimmage number 2, and instead of a Friday night scrimmage, it'll be a Thursday morning scrimmage, I believe scheduled to start around 9:15 Eastern time. Josh Heupel scheduled to speak afterwards at around 11:15, and we'll certainly have plenty of coverage of it all at GoVols247.com. He's Patrick Brown. I'm Ben McKee.